That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah MacArthur, and I am here with Cam Crawford. We're going to record an interview. He is running for DPNM secretary this cycle in April, and I'm super excited. I thought we were recording, so we're going to have to start kind of over, and I apologize for that, Cam. I didn't
No
realize it wasn't
worries.
recording. So I'm going to ask you the first question again, telling you how delighted I am that you've come on our podcast, and if you could give us your history in the Democratic Party and what got you interested in politics and what's informed your decision to stay and become involved, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. Listen, I've,
You're
I've been a
welcome.
Democrat for my entire adult life, and I've been hearing about politics and learning about politics since I was three, and could barely reach the table. I remember my parents having conversations about the economy or education or race relations, and so they were sort of
Mhm.
able to foster uh, that kind of discussion until I
Mhm.
was old enough to be on my own. And as soon as I turned 18, I registered as a Democrat because I'm a working person, and I understand that only one party in this country really stands for working people, whether it's raising the minimum wage or making higher education more affordable or investing in affordable housing. The
Mhm.
choice for me was pretty simple. There was no other alternative, and
Mhm.
Democrats here in New Mexico have done a really great job in being at the forefront of some of those really important policy discussions. And so I'm proud to be a Democrat in a blue state.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, I think that I wanted to ask you, are you currently in a role in you live in Santa Fe, and are you in a precinct chair or a ward chair? Or how are you participating with the party right now?
I'm an active participant and volunteer with the Santa Fe County Democratic Party. And I'm really excited about that because here in Santa Fe, we sort of have this main demographic of people who
Hmm.
are older and retired.
Hmm.
And so they sort of offer that perspective. But I'm happy because I'm a full-time firefighter. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm
Hmm.
23 and I'm a person of color, something Santa
Hmm.
Fe doesn't really have too many of. So I think it's really
Okay.
important to be active and I try to show up to events. I help out when I can when it comes to whether it's getting papers together or making phone calls or event planning.
Hmm.
I'm just an active, dedicated volunteer.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. When did you move to New Mexico? When you were 18 or?
I moved to New Mexico when I was, let's see, I graduated high school when I was 17. So I moved to Portales when I was 17, and then obviously COVID happened and sort of really influenced my college experience. And so I ended up having to move back um, to where I came from. And then I was able to come back to New Mexico finally permanently in 2022. And I've been here
Good.
ever since, and I'm not going anywhere. So
Good, good. Santa Fe is beautiful. I know you've got some snow
absolutely.
on the ground right now,
Oh yeah,
but I mean, I
absolutely.
like the plaza. It's all lit up and stuff at night, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Um, so you and I talked earlier, and you said you hadn't been able to go to the Democratic National Convention in August in Chicago, but you did watch a lot of it. And so, can you tell us anything that you thought might have been a highlight at the convention for you?
absolutely. For me, it was seeing Joe Biden, somebody who I was able to. I basically grew up with Joe Biden as our vice president. I was in second grade when Barack Obama got elected. So seeing Joe Biden pass the torch down to this next generation of Democrats who are going to lead our country through the 21st century, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, the list goes on.
Oh,
Seeing him
Pete is great. I love Pete.
absolutely seeing Joe Biden sort of pass the torch down and say, "Okay, it's your turn now. You take it from here." It was really cool to see. And on top of that, we were able to bring in a couple of Republicans who don't necessarily co-sign with what Trump has to say, Adam Kinzinger, so on and so forth. So I thought it was really cool to have people from another party at a Democratic National Convention because our party is a big tent. It's for everybody. We got to make sure we have a platform that can appeal to somebody who lives in Los Alamos or somebody who lives in Lovington. And so I think that's really important. And it was really cool to see that sort of as a macrocosm at the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, you've mentioned a lot of really interesting and great people. I was super excited. This was the second time I got to vote for a woman. And I just think Kamala Harris was probably the most qualified candidate we've ever had. And I was really disappointed. I actually thought, based on watching the convention myself, I actually thought that she was going to win because, it's just so much energy, so much positive energy. And she was just really, I thought she did a great job. I thought the media did not cover her well. And
They
so I
did
think
not
that
cover
was,
her well. The
that's
media
right.
really
And
dropped the ball altogether. I think that when it comes to the issues that were really the big points of contention, like the economy or inflation, all I heard about for the last 4 years was inflation, inflation, inflation. And then
hmm
with the 2 weeks to go with the election, the inflation rate was at like 2%. Unemployment's the lowest it's ever been. We there's never been a bigger period of job creation ever
right,
than we saw under the
exactly.
Biden administration, but you heard nothing from the national media about it. All you heard about was how awful and terrible things were. And so Donald Trump was sort of able to successfully co-opt that, and now he's back in office.
Well,
So
and I feel like the media being owned by the very, very rich and ultra wealthy, and there's now all this talk about, they are self-fulfilling, and we are turning into an oligarchy. And Bernie Sanders likes to say that a lot. He's been saying it since like 1993, but now he really can point to, this is an oligarchy. And when the media is not covering candidates in the same way, in the same manner, I think that's correct. I think you're right.
yeah.
I'm going to move on to the next question and say you're running to become our secretary for the Democratic Party of New Mexico. Thanks for stepping up and declaring for that. Can you tell us what's motivated you to take on this role?
I'm deeply concerned about the status of the New Mexico Democratic Party. I want to make sure that even though Kamala Harris won New Mexico, she only won by 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
And all of our most robustly blue counties like Mora County or Rio Arriba County, or even here in Santa Fe County, we saw a little bit of a slippage. We saw our numbers go down in some of these counties where in 2020 Joe Biden got 65% of the vote. For example, in Moore County, this time
Mm-hmm.
around, Kamala Harris only got 58% of the vote in Moore County. And these are counties that we shouldn't have any trouble winning. So, what I want to do as secretary, working in conjunction with the vice chair and the treasurer, is making sure that we reach out to every part of the state to make sure that Democrats can organize and run candidates and win elections, and more importantly, just have a presence.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we have orphaned counties completely unacceptable, completely unsustainable. So we have
How
to.
do you have any proposals for how to deal with orphan counties? Because we do have a number of them. So how are you gonna go into those counties and find your Democrats?
Well, it's not going to be hard to find Democrats because if you look at the vote totals, you see Democrats got a little bit of the vote in every county. So whether it's the
Huh?
15% in Lee County or the 23% in Chavez County,
Mm-hmm.
there's some Democrats there who want to get things started again and maybe want to have a local party infrastructure that actually does stuff. So my goal would be to reach out to people who have worked with us in the past and
Mm-hmm.
sort of trade notes with them about what worked and what didn't work, and sort of just building it from the ground up and
Mm-hmm.
cultivating this grassroots energy and building it into something that can run candidates and hold town hall meetings and eventually win elections. Because look, I'm not under the illusion that we're going to win Lee County in the next gubernatorial election. However, let's get a 50-year plan together to win Lee County, right? I mean, in 50
Mm-hmm.
years, I'm only going to be, what, in my 70s? So there's still plenty of time to get this thing going again. And I think as a secretary, as the secretary, your job is to be the liaison. You're supposed to be the point person to all the different caucuses. Yes, you're supposed to take notes too. We all have our different administrative roles, but
Mm-hmm.
let's get people excited again. Let's go talk to people who haven't heard from us Let's talk to people all the time, not just during election season. We got to be present in all 33 counties. That's why I'm proud to have visited in a personal capacity all 33 counties.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
all
Okay.
33 counties. And so it's important that we have a presence in all 33 counties, whether you're Bernalillo County with 600,000 people or you're Harding County with, 400 or 500 people. So we got to show up
So
everywhere all the time.
are the caucuses supposed to only deal with the officers in the party, or are they, because I was wondering that's what party affairs does in a lot of ways, do they not? Or am I just thinking differently?
I think in any case, they should have interaction with officers. Like, I think that in order to really keep your ear to the ground, you have to have connections with people who actually are in the know about different issues, whether it's the Veterans Caucus or the LGBTQ caucus.
Hmm.
We as officers should absolutely have relationships and
Hmm.
do monthly check-ins with these people and just keep abreast of the issues that they care about the most so that we can better advocate for them.
So last follow-up on this particular question is, can you tell me the Democratic Party of New Mexico is a private organization? Can you tell me what the organization's mandate is?
I'm going to be honest with you. I can't, but I know that the job of a political party is to win elections, and the job of the Democratic Party is to be a big tent party that can speak to voters in every corner of our state. So I don't know the
It's
legalese
it,
behind
it you said it. You said it. It's to elect Democrats.
it's to
That
elect
is our
Democrats.
mission. Yeah, that's it.
That
It's
that's
to
the
elect
that's the point.
Democrats and keep that big party tent open. That's the
Absolutely.
mandate. You'd be surprised. It's not a trick question, but I just wanted to
Mhm.
ask. I'm not sure I'd get it right if somebody asked me out of the blue.
Right.
But
Yeah.
now we know, right?
Good.
Um, um, what, and you kind of touched on this just a second ago, but I do ask here, what do you understand are the responsibilities of a secretary in the political organization, and how will you then support the chair?
So there's obviously all the administrative stuff like Robert's Rule of Order, and running meetings, taking notes. But what I want to see this office become is sort of just like a megaphone for what Democrats are doing here in New Mexico. I want to make
Mhm.
sure everybody in New Mexico knows about what's going on down in Chavez County and what Democrats are doing in Chavez County.
Mhm.
How many people know that Roswell has a Democratic mayor, right? Pretty surprising. So we got to
Mhm.
make sure that we keep people in the know about different events and what our plans are, what laws we pass that will directly benefit working people. How many people know that Democrats are responsible for the fact that every worker in New Mexico has 64 hours of paid sick time? So if you get sick, you can call your boss and say, "Hey, listen, I can't come in today. I'm not feeling good." No questions asked.
Mhm.
Democrats did that for you. The fact that we have abortion rights here in New Mexico, Democrats did that for you. And we got to make sure, I believe I need to make sure as secretary, people know about that. And when they know about that, they'll reward us with their votes. Because if our mission
Mhm.
is to elect Democrats, we have to give people a reason to be like, oh, hey, yeah, those are the people who like actually helped me. So as the secretary, I just want to be the liaison for all of our county chairs. I want to make sure we have robust organization in all 33 counties. And I want to make
Mhm.
sure Democrats in all 33 counties have a place to go when they want to organize, run candidates, and eventually win elections. That's
Mm.
what I see the role as secretary.
And would you be working with the vice chairs? You have a vice chair in your area? Do you know who your vice chairs are?
Vice chairs for county
For
parties.
for the Congressional District 3, because you're
Oh
in
yes,
Congressional District 3.
Yes. I actually know one of them pretty well. Her name's Letitia Montoya.
Okay.
We've crossed paths before. And then the other one I know is a gentleman. Not positive on what his name, but that's the beauty of the information age is like I could go to
I
our
is
website.
it I think it's Mr. Seeley, I think. Greg Seeley, I think is who it was. I don't know if he's still
Okay,
I think
I've
so.
met him
I'm not
too.
and I'm not 100% if I'm right on that, but it's
Right.
I just wondered if you knew that. Um okay. So what types of duties do you anticipate having to be involved with? And have you had a conversation with the current person in this position to inform yourself what the obligations and responsibilities will be like.
So I haven't had a discussion with our current secretary, but I do plan on reaching out and asking him questions and just really just standing for a phone call and asking him, hey, what were your plans when you got elected, and how did you manifest those plans into action? So I think it's really important uh, for the transition period, whenever the new secretary does take over, to kind of know a little bit about what they're getting into. So the best advice is people who've done it before. So
Mhm.
as a firefighter, I love talking to people who are more senior than me. So they can teach me things that I don't know. So that's number one. Number two, some of the roles and responsibilities that I envision again is like really the administrative stuff, obviously taking notes about the executive committee meetings, and enforcing Robert's rule of order. Um, but also, again, it's about reaching out to people and asking them how they're doing and what they need from the state party to help them build a strong county party, to help them build better precincts, to help them build better wards, and
Mhm.
creating and fostering a strong environment for Democrats to be successful.
And what role do you think the secretary plays with the state central committee? Do they, to prepare their agendas and work with the officers to work on those elements? Because those happen pretty regularly, or at least a couple
Yeah.
times a year anyway. And those are pretty big, huge meetings. So I think
Yeah,
would it fall to you, I think. And
I believe it would. I believe it would.
yeah.
And again, it goes back to taking really good notes. And then what I want to do is build a newsletter that's sort of like a
Hmm.
roundup of everything that went on in the month of January, everything that went on in the month of June, so on and so forth, to just keep people in the know-how and make sure that people hear from us. And when they hear from us, it's not just about, asking for money or whatever, like making sure that people are invested, and if they know what's going on, they'll be invested.
So, what do you think DPNM's biggest concerns are right now?
I
Like
think
the people, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
right
Sorry.
now, there's a lot of demoralization amongst Democrats nationwide, but here in New Mexico too, about the
Hmm.
election results and sort of where do we
Hmm.
go from here. And I think we need to have a good answer about how not only are we going to fight the Trump administration, but be proactive with regard to some of our policy positions. So I'm really excited to see, for example, what comes out of the legislature on paid family leave or public safety. So
Hmm.
that's number one. Where do we go from here? What do we do next?
Hmm.
Number two, I think there is a deep concern, and I'm going to be a hypocrite here for a second, with regard to how we meet with Democrats. So, are we going down there in person? Are people seeing us in the flesh, or is it just with Zoom? Are we a Zoom party, right? And obviously, it was born out of COVID, but people are tired of Zoom. Like they don't want to do Zoom anymore. We went to school on Zoom. I went to college on Zoom. Like we're done with Zoom. So I think people want to know and see you in their community. So that's something
Hmm.
I'm really passionate about. And I,
Hmm.
I plan on, again, continuing to visit all 33 counties because I think it's important to have a presence and to show up everywhere all the time. So people are upset about the formatting with regard to how we meet. And then, like we talked about a little bit ago, some counties do not have a functioning local party. And there is no way, no how, there's no way we're going to win elections if we don't have a party for you to go to organize or find candidates or run elections or have town hall meetings. And so that's another really big concern is are what we call orphaned counties, places that don't have functioning Democratic parties.
So, supposing you can't find people in, say, DeBaca County, I know they're orphaned right now, and
Yeah,
because I know they're orphaned because my people have helped send postcards to the Democrats that are registered there. So,
yeah.
is do you have any other kinds of ideas for those orphaned counties in terms of getting participation out of them, out of the voters?
I think that New Mexico, the Democratic Party of New Mexico, has enough resources to rent out a town hall center and say, "Hey guys, if you're a Democrat here in Tobacco County, let's meet, let's talk, let's get to know each other, and let's figure out how we can get this thing going again." Because Tobacco County used to be blue. I think Tobacco County voted for Bill Clinton as recently as 1996. So
Yeah, I
it's
don't
it's
know.
really
It's such a
important.
while.
It's been a minute, right?
Yeah, it's been
And
a minute.
so we have to find that 20% or that 30% or that 15% of people who vote blue and see if they're willing to come to a meeting and ask them what they need and what how we could get it going again because they know best. They live in that community. Where are
Mm-hmm.
people? Do you know other Democrats in Tobacco County and Fort Sumner and places like House? Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's important that we talk to people who are actually there, and I think that just goes back to being present.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be nothing for the state party to say, "Hey, we're going to rent a space and we're going to send postcards and emails and text
Do,
messages to
do
people
you
living in
think
Fort
that
Sumner."
the party has not, that the Democratic Party now has not done some of those things already, in terms of reaching out or at least helping to get the message out to vote Democrat or participate in voting and stuff? I mean, is that your thought that they have just completely been orphaned and nobody's paying attention to them at all? Or
I can't say that they've completely given up, but what I can say is that it has to be a continuous effort inside
okay,
election years and outside of election years. And we need to
okay.
have all of our statewide elected officials visit places like Fort Sumner to hold a town hall. Or maybe we could find somebody who's on the town council and ask them to hold a town hall.
Hmm.
Something, anything that let
Right.
people know that we're there. Because I think a lot of people, and sort of the big issue with the Democratic Party and with the rise of somebody like Trump is a lot of people just feel left behind. And there are people who voted for President Obama twice who ended up voting for Donald Trump in 2016 and so on and so forth.
Unbelievable. I cannot believe that happened. I'm going to ask you a question, and I've not asked the other people this, but you're talking about this made me think of it. Um, which is there's a phenomenon about these smaller counties that turn in a tiny percentage, like Chaves County turned in like I can't remember, but I think it's only like 3% of the state's total votes or some low number like that.
Mhm.
And so when that happens, then the people that are running for office, I'm not saying statewide, but like congressionally, they are very often they go to where the larger numbers are and not
Yes.
come to the smaller numbered places because the impact of that is pretty low. So Zoom was kind of helpful in terms of getting people to come here. Do you have any other ideas for how to get the candidates who, mind you, are back and forth between here and Washington? How do we get them to the smaller counties as well that don't turn in the same kind of votes?
Well, I would hope I wouldn't have to explain to a candidate who's running for an office, they should take no voter for granted and write no voter off. So
Hmm.
no community is too red, too blue, too big, too small to be visited by someone who's asking for your vote. And
Hmm.
I think it sends a really bad message on both ends because if you're let's say you live in Taos County, right? Very
Hmm.
blue. Okay, well, all the people in Taos are going to vote for me anyway. There's really no point in me visiting. You just completely took all these people for granted. And similarly, if you have a place like Chavez County, very red, and you have Democrats saying, well, we're not really going to go spend any time in Chavez County. It's not worth it. It's red. Republicans don't have to fight anymore. You just conceded all of these votes and all of this territory to Republicans. So now Republicans know, okay, great. We don't have to even do any campaigning down here in Roswell
And they
or Dexter
didn't.
or
And
wherever.
they
Or and they
didn't.
didn't, and they don't because they know
Well, I
Democrats
shouldn't
aren't
say
going to
that.
fight.
I was gonna. Well, that's probably unfair. I mean, there were a couple. I know Nella Domenici came and talked to the women down here, and a couple other. I think Yvette. No, Yvette Harold didn't come to Roswell because she really doesn't have a district over here anymore. But I'm going to move on and let you answer this question, which is, what makes you the right choice for this position?
I think that the Democratic Party is at a critical moment right now, and we're asking ourselves, who is a Democrat and what is a Democrat? We used to
Mm-hmm.
be the party of working people, people who made
Mm-hmm.
under 50, $60,000 a year. We used to be the party of people of color, uh, and we still are, but we've lost a lot of ground, and we have no business losing ground to Republicans on some of these really important issues. And so I think I'm the best person for this position because I'm exactly who the Democratic Party needs to try to speak to. I'm a union member. I'm a full-time firefighter. I'm part of our union. It's called the IAFF, International Association of Firefighters. So we need to win back union members. Kamala Harris only won union members. It was a single digit victory. We used to blow Republicans out of the water when it
Yeah,
came
there was
to winning
another
union members.
statistic. Oh, yes, and union members are, thank goodness for union members. Do you know who the first person that ever came up with the union and fighting so hard for the union was? The secretary during Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Her name was Frances Perkins. She's the first woman cabinet secretary, and she's the one
Okay, I
that
didn't know
that's.
that.
It's kind of a cool history, but anyway, I digress. I was going to ask though. One of the things they said was that um, uh, brown and black men didn't vote for Kamala Harris. Do you have any thoughts on that yourself? Do you know anybody that maybe was a Democrat and then didn't vote for her and why? Do you know anybody like that?
My brother. So a couple of points.
Okay.
Number one, 80% of Black people in America voted for Kamala Harris. So we are still decisively a
Democrat. Mhm.
reliable vote for Democrats. Now, having
Okay.
said that, a lot of Black folks feel that the Democrats only come around during elections and don't necessarily fully deliver on all of their promises. And
I
so,
I see that. I see that.
same with
Yeah.
Hispanic people or Asian voters or any minority voters. We as Democrats have to be present all the time. And one of the things that Republicans are so good at is messaging. Democrats are
Even if
horrible
it's
at
the
tooting their
wrong
own,
message.
even if it's the wrong message.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Democrats are terrible at tooting their own horn. Again, you ask people about these different policy victories here in New Mexico. Ask them who did it. I guarantee you they can't. Not a lot of people can tell you. Oh yeah, well the Democrats and Michelle Lujan Grisham and our Democratic state legislature did that for you. No, a lot of people probably can't tell you that. So it's important to message correctly, and I think that's what our job is as officers. But to another point I made, my brother. So we grew up in the same household. We grew up in the suburbs.
Mhm.
I'm a Democrat. He voted for Donald Trump because he works in the oil fields. So sometimes it's not always uh, a question. Like sometimes, like people just vote for do what they feel is
Does he
like they're
think that
voting
the
for their
oil,
job.
I mean, because we're pumping more oil than we've ever pumped before under Biden. I mean, we are
Right.
exporting more oil and pumping it, and the basin down here is huge. I mean, it's
Yes.
very, very, they are just, and they're fracking and they're doing all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff, and they are
Yeah.
really
They've
pumping
had a
out
lot of
oil.
success. They've had a lot of
But
success
but
under
but
Democrats.
that didn't. I mean, it's like Joe Biden's, people still don't understand what the infrastructure law is, but they'll understand now because Trump just stopped it. All payments to anything and any project that was infrastructure. Yesterday's news was, and this I got off
Yeah.
of Martin Heinrich, Senator Martin Heinrich's. He posted, I think it was an IG and Instagram thing, and he posted several pages of what's going to happen in New Mexico, what projects are being stopped because we're not going to get any funding anymore. And that's, very unfortunate for all of us. So,
Very unfortunate. And it would surprised a lot of people to know that a lot of the benefits from the laws that Biden passed actually benefited red areas more than blue areas. However, it didn't
yes,
make any difference because we're
didn't
so
make any difference.
polarized and oh, he's
Well,
a
because the
Democrat, so that's a
messaging
bad.
is so erratic. I mean, if Donald Trump is
Yeah,
anything, he is a good snake oil salesman. And
absolutely.
that people know he lies on a regular basis, and then they go, "Oh
They
my God,
don't
I'm so
care.
surprised that was a lie." And I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah,
Because nothing he
they don't
says
care.
is ever the truth. Right.
Yeah,
And they'll defend all this totally bad behavior you and I will never get away with at all.
it's
So, anyway,
because he lies for them. Like they see it as, but I mean, so going back to the point of, oh, we've had all this success under Democrats with regard to oil and gas, which frankly kind of disappointed about. Like, we shouldn't be propping up oil and gas, but still, like, our brand is so toxic that people associate Democrat with anti-oil and gas. So you have all these people in Hobbs or Carlsbad or Lovington, wherever down in the southeastern part of the state, they'll never even think about voting for Democrats because Democrats are seen as too
Do you,
pro-environment. So
and I don't know where you're from originally, but down here in the southeastern part of the state, uh, the oil and gas actually provides a percentage of the state's budget. Do you know
yeah,
what percentage? Do you know how much that is?
it's around 30 to 40%.
About 40%.
Yeah,
So when you suggest that, well, we shouldn't be pumping that much, part of that is international and all the sanctions on Russia, and we have to give, there's different types of oil that is pumped and stuff. So that's part of why we're pumping more. And OPEC and which is the Middle Eastern countries with oil and
right.
reserves and all that, made a deal with Putin and with Donald Trump when Trump was in office
Of course, right.
to do things that were detrimental to the United States, which is why Joe Biden had no choice but to pump more. I just throw
Right.
that out there as a kind of an explanation, but
Good
and I'm
context.
by no means fully cognizant of all the things that happened, although I know enough to know that those things did happen. I think we answered the next question kind of already in my mind, but I'm going to ask anyway because you may have some other ideas and that I've not thought of yet. Nationally, what do you see as the biggest obstacle for us maintaining or getting past the American First MAGA agenda, which in the last 4 days has been devastating?
Absolutely. I think
Absolutely.
we need to undergo a little bit of a rebrand. So I'm really excited about some of the candidates who are running for DNC chair, because we've been paying people to basically tell us how to lose elections. We've spent millions of dollars on consultants, and they say, "Hey, you should do this or you should talk like this." And what has it gotten us? It's gotten us
Okay,
two
but
losses to Donald Trump.
New Mexico didn't lose this election. New Mexico put all of our senators and all of our congresspeople are actually Democrats that are up in
Yes.
Congress, right? So
Well,
are
it's
you
not
saying
necessarily just about New
we as a
Mexico.
nationally, oh, you're answering it nationally. I apologize. I
Yes.
understand now.
Yes.
Okay, nationally. Okay, got it.
Yes.
Got it. Hmm.
And we should think in national terms as well, because in a state like New York, where just 2 years ago, Joe Biden won by 20, Kamala Harris only won by 11 or 12. New Jersey, she only won by 5. California, she got like millions of less votes than Joe Biden did. So I'm speaking in national terms because unfortunately, reality is like elections aren't decided on who New Mexico votes for. It's decided on who Pennsylvania votes for, Michigan or Wisconsin. Those are the critical states that we lost. New Mexico was never really in question. So I think nationally, here in New Mexico, we have to go undergo a little bit of a rebrand about what our party stands for
Hmm.
and what kind of candidates we put forth for different offices. We need to make sure we find working class candidates to speak to working class people. We can't just be the party of people who make over $100,000 a year. I want their votes too, but there's way more people who make $50,000 a year than there are who make $100,000 a year, especially here in New Mexico. We're
Hmm.
not a very uh, well-off state. There's a lot of people who make $30,000 a year and they make it work.
Hmm.
So we got to be a party for people like that. We can't just be a party of people who, are of means and well resourced.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So, trying to think, in terms of the MAGA agenda, just so much stuff has happened. It's just unbelievable. Um, but it's not, I didn't ask the other people about it, so I'm not going to ask you and put you on the spot or anything like that. But I do have the last question is, what do you want people who will be voting for you to know about your commitment, knowledge, and focus going forward? So this is your last sales pitch, and you make it good for your audience.
Well, once again, I think I'm exactly who the Democratic Party needs to try and speak to better. We have to stop taking people for granted. We have to stop
Mm-hmm.
writing people off. And as somebody who's a union member, full-time firefighter, I work in education. I know what it takes to be a working person here in New Mexico. And I think that in order to do better and to win back some of these people who have turned away from us, whether it's working class Hispanics, or certain subset of the Black community or Native Americans, we have to make sure that we keep working people at the forefront of our policy, how we campaign, where we campaign, etc. And that's something that I'm fully committed to doing. That's why I've been to all 33 counties. I'll go back to all
Mm-hmm.
33 counties and I'll keep going back because it's important to show up everywhere all the time. And I look
Mm-hmm.
forward to working with the rest of the officers to elect Democrats up and down the ballot in every county and rebuilding our infrastructure so that we can start winning elections again. I think that's really important.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time, and I hope people feel confident. How can they get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you and ask you more questions?
And they can call me. Call me at
Okay.
505-231-1349, or you can email me at cam for nmdims, cam at camfornmdims.com, and we can email back and forth. Or you can find me on
Okay.
Facebook just at Cam Crawford. So
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. That's it for us, and I hope you guys enjoy this and get to know Mr. Crawford. It's so nice of you to come and visit with us today. So I'm going to turn off our recording and tell you to subscribe and like and follow us. And so share this with all your friends so that the message is given. Okay. Thank you.